about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of my favorite snacks is taking a potato chip and then making some French onion dip, and then taking that potato chip and just completely scooping up that French onion dip that I made, especially if it has some crunchy onions. And remember, I don't digest onions well, but I don't care. I just love French onion dip. And then I just, oh my gosh, I could, watch the whole football game and go through the whole tub of French onion dip. I do not like flavored potato chips that much. I mean, I'll eat Fritos, but Fritos are corn chips. They're not necessarily potato chips. The idea of making a potato and then salting it up and then sticking it in dips is delicious. But I don't necessarily need my chips pre-seasoned. Well, this report from Son of Grey says there are 5 potato chip flavors linked to colon cancer. Now, I believe any sort of junk food has some cancer potential. So don't panic about this. But, this isn't, okay, well, let's just eat regular chips. But apparently this article is discussing how some of the flavor varieties contain ingredients and compounds that research has linked to colorectal cancer. As you know, highly processed meats, artificial additives, excessive sodium, and compounds that get created from high temperatures like acrylamide can cause cancer. It's pretty concerning. So what are the flavors? Well, first, they cite bacon-flavored potato chips. I didn't know they were bacon-flavored. I'm not a big bacon fan in terms of the flavor. I like Canadian bacon, but I'm not, I don't know. I'm not really big. I like bacon flavored ice cream. No, I'm not into that. I'm not into coffee flavors. I think I like chocolate so much. I'm like, I'll eat chocolate. But bacon flavored chips contain smoke flavoring nitrates, nitrite related compounds designed to mimic cured meat. They say even though most bacon-flavored chips don't contain real bacon, they have natural flavors derived from processed pork or additives that resemble cured meat chemistry. And then when you do the high-temperature frying process, it creates acrylamide. And acrylamide is a chemical that's formed when starchy foods are cooked at high heat, and hence the chips could carry multiple risk factors. Another is the chili cheese and nacho cheese flavors. See, here's my thing. Just make your nacho cheese. I would rather dip my tortilla in melted cheese. By the way, I don't like the shredded cheese. I know it's easy to use, and I used to always put shredded cheese on my tacos and things like that, but the shredded cheese, if you notice, has a lot more surface area where they could have chemicals and things and glue and all that to keep its shape. You notice there's like that white waxy stuff? In order for cheese to keep its shape and not melt at room temperature and things like that, there's these chemicals that they use. And shredded cheese, every little shred, that's added surface area. So I like to get my blocks of cheese and then I'll use a shredder. And so that's what I would do. But chili cheese and nacho flavored chips contain artificial colors, flavor enhancers, MSG, the monosodium glutamate, high levels of saturated fat and sodium. Plus, they use the artificial dyes yellow 5 and yellow 6. Those have raised concern about inflammation and gut health. And so I'm not saying they cause cancer, but there are concerns that the dyes and some of the other preservatives could put you at risk. The barbecue flavored chips. Barbecue flavored, yeah, they're yummy. The artificial smoke flavoring, there's going to be sugar, caramel coloring, preservatives. But they say that certain caramel coloring is produced using a process that may have trace contaminants of 4-MeI. 4-MeI is being studied for potential carcinogenic properties. I'm not saying they have it, but that's a concern. Not to mention the acrylamide, because they want to darker fry it, blend the seasonings, and as you know, acrylamide, again, from browned or charred snack foods, you want to limit. The hot and spicy, like the jalapeno, habanero, flamin' hot varieties, I wouldn't recommend any of those because many of you guys are struggling with acid reflux, and I really don't want acid coming up from the stomach into your esophagus, changing the lining and putting you at risk for esophageal cancer. I'm not a fan of any of that. Not to mention the acid comes up and ruins your teeth when you sleep. But these extra hot and spicy jalapeno or flamin' hot varieties have intensified seasoning blends, artificial flavor compounds, acidity regulators, preservatives. And so obviously these could be a concern, not to mention the high salt. Now here comes our sour cream and onion. Even though they might seem milder, the powders they have, the dairy powders, the artificial flavors, the flavor enhancers, they say they could cause inflammation. They also can have acrylamide during cooking. It makes me wonder, what about just regular chips? Do they also have the acrylamide? Yeah, and again, once in a while is fine. I don't really eat a lot of chips. I know during football season, there's a lot of opportunity for that, but I really only do chips and dip if I'm going to have people over or I'm going to go over to their house and there's some chips and dip. But I probably eat chips and dip maybe once or twice a year. I really don't do that a lot because it's empty calories and I really need to watch my weight. And again, the once in a blue moon thing is fine. But, colon cancer, in addition to weight and genetics and lifestyle and lack of physical activity, and if you smoke and things like that, eating heavily processed fried snack foods with additives and acrylamide and sodium could contribute to your long-term risk. So, one thing I've done is if I really like French onion dip that much where I'm completely submerging the chip like a spoon, so I'll dip, celery in it or a carrot. My body will forget that I'm not eating chips, and I get it. There's nothing like the salt on potato chips. And I love the, I don't like Lay's. I like the Pringles because, I like Pringles too, but I like the Ruffles because those layers add that extra surface area so you can actually attach more of the French onion dip on. Oh gosh, I'm hungry. Anyway, just cut back on your chips. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I read this article about a NASA astronaut who had this kind of life-changing revelation while he was out there on the International Space Station. Daily Mail is reporting this. This was interesting. So Ron Garan launched, I guess, back in April 4th, 2011, and returned home September 16th, 2011, completed nearly 3,000 orbits around Earth. And he says humanity is, quote, living a lie. He spent 178 days in space, and he said while looking out the window of the International Space Station, he was struck by how differently the world appears when you're out there in space. And I'm not surprised by this. One of the reasons why I don't want to go out into space is, one, that Superman 2 movie scared me, where the bad guys, ripped off the American flag patch, and then, the guy ends up, losing his air and oxygen and dying. And I that just scared me as a kid, that I never want to go out into space unless there's a real Superman who could save me. Even though even Superman couldn't save them, I'm not ready to go out into space. And I guess the reason why I'm not ready to go out into space is because I'm going to be very, very humbled by how delicate the Earth will look compared to vast space, and how, so many different things could go wrong. I think I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And I like my little La La Land, where, I'm in Rivendell and me and Aragorn, populating Gondor. And, that's my little happy space. Okay. Yes, that can happen. That really can happen. Well, NASA astronaut Garan said that from space, the planet's fragile life support systems, its atmosphere, oceans, and ecosystems are clearly visible, but society treats them as if they exist only to serve the global economy. He said, when he was out in space, I didn't see the economy. Well, good, because in 2011, we were in the midst of a pretty bad recession. That's good. It was pretty bad in 2011. But he said, I didn't see the economy. He said, but since our human-made systems treat everything, including the very life support systems of our planet, as the wholly owned subsidiary of the global economy, it's obvious from the vantage point of space that we're living a lie. He told the Big Think this. He said that the view from the space station made him realize that many of the systems humanity relies on are built around a flawed idea, that Earth's natural resources are merely a subsidiary of economic growth. Now, I don't think that. But, maybe that's what was kind of pushed in terms of, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that, but he thinks, which he's not wrong about this, that humanity organizes its priorities prettily misguided. He said, we need to move from thinking economy, society, planet to planet, economy, society, and planet, to instead planet first, society, and then economy. He said that's when we're going to continue our evolutionary process. So astronauts call this shift the overview effect. It was first coined in space by philosopher Frank White in 1987. It's a shift in awareness that many astronauts feel while viewing Earth from space. So I could believe it. I'm sure there's also some effect that our men and women who serve overseas and who've been in foxholes have. I know we doctors have a much different filter and lens, as we see the Earth and health because of what we've seen and what we've done in the ER and urgent cares and in training. But apparently the overview effect is where these astronauts report an overwhelming sense of awe, deeper appreciation for the planet's beauty and fragility, and a powerful feeling of connection to humanity and the Earth as a whole. So, but he suggests change of perspective. So, what does that mean? Well, what do we do? So he thinks it should be a light bulb, and that the orbital perspective is a call to action. Says it's a sense of injustice when we see the sobering contraindication between the indescribable beauty of our planet and the unfortunate realities of life on our planet for a significant number of the inhabitants. One of the things that I realized during my time in space is that we're not from Earth, we're of Earth. And we're to take that one step further is that we're not in the universe. We are the universe. We are the universe becoming conscious of itself. So it's a beautiful thinking and having this orbital perspective. But, what I think a lot of what we do, and I've described this, and I think a lot of us feel this way, is like politics, for example. Politics will take everything and mess it up. So, for example, the idea of we need to be on electric vehicles to save the earth. So you got my ears perked up by saving the earth. All right, I want to save the earth. I love our planet. I don't want to hurt our ozone. I don't want to add fossil fuels. But whoa. Electric vehicle, are you sure that's not going to hurt the earth? And then when you start to look at lithium batteries, you look at the fires that can't be put out, you wonder about the Pacific Palisades fires and how many of those neighborhoods just had to, just burn because there was no way for them to put out the electric vehicle fires that kept fueling them. Once the wildfire started, the light and start the flames, and then you're looking at the heaviness of an electric vehicle car is very heavy. We don't want heaviness. Heaviness changes the land of the earth. When we saw that car park or that parking lot in New York crumble, people got hurt, cars destroyed, and they said our cars are heavier than they were in the 1940s. In the 1940s, yeah, we had big beasts, but now with the electric vehicles, our cars are heavier. And these, parking structures aren't built for that. And then we're being told that the weight that we're putting on this earth with all the building that we're doing and all the weight of things is actually warming the earth. And so what is it? Are electric vehicles helping or hurting? Now we have energy shortages. So the economy gets involved and becomes important because unfortunately people hurt each other as a result of it. I mean, if I was going to be out in space and I was going to look at the big, beautiful world, I would be like, I want to see humans live in harmony. But they don't live in harmony. They weren't living in harmony in Iran. They weren't living in harmony in money, economy, bad people running things. It had to do with that. And I think it's a beautiful way to refocus people, saying, look, the earth is beautiful. We need to preserve it as much as possible. We need to make sure we have the circle of life and all the animals are happy. But, like watching Lion King. Lion King's a beautiful movie. One of my favorite movies that Disney did. Love the Lion King. But, you leave the Lion King going, okay, all the animals are happy, but don't, lions still have to eat the other animals and the animals still kill each other. And they kind of need, when they have the watering hole, other animals to go away and die so they have access to the watering hole. And so whether it's your ability to feed and eat or the economy, it still gets important. It still, unfortunately kind of, wiggles itself in there. But I do like the idea of understanding that, we need to be smart about our planet. We need to be smart about our resources. I look at some of the decisions made in my neck of the woods where they say you need to restrict water. We're going to restrict water that you use. Yet then they allow, all these people from California to move in and all these, and they, my restricting, of how many times I do my laundry is not going to offset all the toilet flushing from tens of thousands of people that are moving in each month. And so, if you're going to bring up the planet, don't spoil it by false narratives, by political ploys, by, we need to help the electric vehicle industry. We need to kind of push this. So let's make this the narrative. Don't be doing that. Because unfortunately, people are like, it's all fake. It's not all fake. We do have to protect the environment. That's, I mean, as a doctor, a scientist, I'm telling you right now, that's no lie. We're doing things to hurt our environment. But don't be pushing, electric vehicles are the cure. Because, what I'm seeing is electric vehicles could hurt the environment as well. So let's be realistic. Let's be honest. Is eating a veggie burger going to save the planet? Well, if you're using all these preservatives and it's taking a lot of resources to make that veggie burger, and then not to mention, you're not really eating the freshest of food. to make that. That's be honest about that. So there is this big push, and we're going to see it depending on which administration is in office. To put more money in these green star. I don't mind money in research. Saying what can we do? Like look at the albuterol inhalers. How we had to change our inhalers because of the components that were hurting the ozone layer. In fact, I'm fine with that. Let's study that. But don't be telling us that we need to secretly put money into certain companies. Now you're putting economy first, in front of planet. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, the Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I am impressed with our next guest. Wow. We have Mohamed Abu Lazoud, known as Mo. When he was only 27 years old, he built the first prototype for a neurostimulator that enhances cognitive performance. And this is backed by Johns Hopkins. And this is an amazing invention and something that I think can really, really help. So I'm really, really excited to introduce Mo. Mo, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Dr. Dahlia. Thank you so much for the intro.
Wow. We spoke about how my one of my buddies from medical school, had taken his life and he was drug resistant or with treatment resistant, and so we're looking for outside the box other ways to treat mental illness. Talk to us about what incited you and encouraged you, as you've seen in terms of mental health changes since COVID and what we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, especially for my generation, but also everybody, we're so isolated nowadays. Everybody is locked in, and COVID taught us the behavior of staying in your house all the time is normal. We kind of internalize the idea that we don't really have to leave, we don't really have to socialize, or if we socialize, we can do it through the internet. And that plus social media just created this cocktail where COVID created this sort of permanent change of isolation that we're trying to leave, So I definitely see mental health being, becoming a real problem because it's become a habit, a habit to be inside.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's one of the biggest epidemics we've seen since COVID. You've had a personal journey with mental health. If you don't mind, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I went to Ohio State and I was studying neuro, but I was suffering from severe depression. I was diagnosed bipolar. And, a lot of young men my age were trying to find solution, young men and women, and the medications weren't helping at all. So I was actually 20 when I built the first prototype. It was a brain stimulation device to stimulate the frontal lobe. And it was absolutely incredible. One of the things about medication, some medications do work, but the medications for me is that they were shunting my libido. They made me into like a walking zombie. I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't anything, And so I needed something different. So this device that we built targets frontal lobe activities that actually allowed me to be more social, to talk more, to feel more, to empathize more. So it was a completely different approach to medication. And I'm really glad to say that my mental health has improved several folds ever since starting the technology.
Gosh, it's amazing, studying neurostimulation. I mean, wow. And what I like about what you did is you have many individuals, with startups and companies where they're like, I think I can make money on this. Or this is personal for you. You're like, things aren't working. And in fact, my friend who, took his life, the medicines weren't working for him. And I mean, this is something that could not only save lives, but I mean, it could just transform how we're treating depression. And, you've found and is now CEO of You the Mind. Talk to us about this company and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, so we build these portable brain stimulation devices. I mean, these are things you can put in your pocket. Straight up. You can fold it. It looks like a headband, looks like a little cap. And they send these small signals, these small electrical signals into the brain to help activate the brain. And we have run clinical trials for Parkinson's disease. We've run clinical trials for Alzheimer's, psychiatric disorders. And the really cool part about our company is that we're also about to release in the next week a new cognitive enhancement device. This is a non-medical product that can be used by healthy individuals to enhance their IQ, decision-making, focus, and mood. So we're doing a whole bunch of stuff at You the Mind company, and we're super excited about the future.
Gosh, it's exciting. And, one thing that I'm seeing with patients as it pertains to depression or anxiety is it's not that you have ample warning and then you have minutes to hours. You have some people where when they start to feel or decompensate, it's right away. They could be at work. They could be at a child's birthday party. And so something like this that's mobile, can I ask how... what's the time for, is it that people feel better after a series of treatments, or do they seem to get an initial response when using it?
Yeah, so we typically see responses within the first few days. People start to notice some sort of effects. They feel a little bit different, where they're a little bit more calm. They are a little bit more self-aware. And then at around 6 weeks, people start to realize the impact of the technology, and they start to realize the influence the technology has on their motivation, their focus, their brain fog. And from 6 to 12 weeks, that's when the real growth of neuroplasticity occurs, and we see these massive growth in brain connectivity. So it's a slow build-up from 0 to 6 weeks. You start to see some responses, but from 6 to 12 weeks, it's just out of this world.
Gosh, that's wonderful. Huge advantages. I know some people are thinking, Neuralink, we're doing a lot now in tech looking at these, talk to us about the differences between this and Neuralink.
Yeah, so Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink that implants this chip inside the brain using surgery. So you have to get a surgical intervention to have this electrode stationed underneath the skull. And this is going to be used for a wide variety of neurological disorders, but the problem is that it's surgical, and if you want to fix it, you want to tune up, then that's a whole nother problem. So our devices, we are the non-invasive Neuralink. So we are like the alternative to Elon Musk's company, because our devices, you can put in your pocket, you use it for 15 minutes, and you can put it on your nightstand. So we don't require any surgical intervention, which allows us to scale up quickly and help millions and millions and billions of people suffering from these mental conditions and making it accessible to them. You don't need a surgery to get it.
Exactly. That's and so it's going to, the one thing about treatment is, even if a treatment is fantastic and exciting, if it's not accessible, if it's not cost of, if it's not realistic for somebody cost wise, they won't approach it. And so I really, really like what you're doing. We're speaking to Mohammed Abulasad. We know him as Mo. I am just amazed at what you've been able to accomplish, with you and your company. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners in the last minute?
Hey, we are about to release our products for the public, the Wellness Cognitive Enhancement products. These are available coming up in the next 2 weeks. You can learn more about it on uthemind.com. That's the letter U, the mind, MIND.com. You'll be able to see our company's technology and try it for yourself.
Gosh, I love it. Mo, it's so great to talk to you. We can't wait to have you back. We'll definitely check that out. And thank you for all you and your company do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daliah. Have a great
Anytime.
day.
You too. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Yeah, one of probably the most frustrating things I deal with is drug-resistant, depression and bipolar and anxiety, and patients say the medicines aren't working. And so I'm grateful for innovators such as Mo. Don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So reality TV is still big. I'm kind of shocked by that. I don't really watch a lot of reality TV. I did a lot of Pawn Stars episodes, and I really loved, Pawn Stars. I love the show, and I loved being on it. I would bring medical antiques and talk about them and then sell them. And I was so upset that I sold one of mine. That I went and I bought another one. It was the tonsillatome, where back in the 1800s, you would fork at the tonsil, grab it, and then quickly guillotine it off. And that's how you would do your tonsillectomies. You would give anesthesia. You did have ether and anesthesia, but it was sometimes just no. We would just do it, I guess, back then. And so I ended up getting another one because I really missed it, but I sold it and Rick wanted it and it was good. It was my time on Pawn Stars was great. But what I find fascinating is when I do watch some of these reality TVs like Below Deck, I'm wondering, if there are any lawsuits. Like, for example, Below Deck is where, the yachting industry, you get to see what happens, quote, below deck. And below deck is where the staff are. And there's always relationships and people sleeping with each other and them talking, crap about the guests who are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars. And then if they only get a $15,000 tip, they're considered cheapskates. You're like $15,000 to come out of pocket, $15,000 for a tip for 2 days. That's a lot. I wouldn't tip my hotel for that. I mean, that's a lot of money. And so I was wondering, not to mention there's cameras, so you could see them partially naked and things like that. And I was like, does anybody sue? And one thing, I told my husband, because I had been a food server and a waitress, and I've worked in the hospitality industry, and I told him always tip good. Well, this is a good tip. It's 15%. No, 15% is not considered good. It's you got to tip 20%. And my husband and I always go back and forth going, this is getting ridiculous. And I go, I know it is. I know the tipping, they expect it. But here's why. And then they badmouth you. And so never do any of these we could never afford. I would never, rent a private yacht. And to me, just go to a hotel. I'd rather travel. I'd rather rent my own little boat, skiff, and just kind of, do my own thing off the boat. I don't think I would ever do that. But when you see how the staff talk about you, it's very realistic. However, there's a lot of things that aren't realistic. There's a lot of pressure. And I'm watching these shows sometimes because when there's no sports, I need something while I'm working to have in the background where I really don't care about the plot. The Pit, fantastic show, but with The Pit, I need to be all eyes on deck because I don't want to miss any of the medicine, and I don't want to miss anything. Same thing with Game of Thrones. I would not work or do anything in the background because I just didn't want to miss anything. But with, something like this, who cares about the show? Let it go in the background. But, I'm taking a look and I'm like, gosh, do these two really like each other? Are they kind of forcing it? So apparently, Below Deck does get lawsuits. One lawsuit actually that hit the news is The Amazing Race. Apparently, there's a couple who appeared in the CBS reality series The Amazing Race is now suing the network for $8 million and damages over the way they were portrayed on the reality show. I don't watch The Amazing Race. The concept is cool, but I have not seen One Amazing Race. But Jonathan and Anna Towns, who appeared on the 37th season, 37 seasons now of The Amazing Race. I saw Survivor years ago, a couple of seasons of that, but I haven't watched it since. Anyway, they filed a lawsuit. Apparently, their season ran March 5th to March 15th, where Jonathan's a software developer, Anna's a stay-at-home mom. They finished in third place, but they claimed that producers presided over a smear strategy so audacious and immoral that it would shock the conscience of even the most cynical propagandist, and that the producers took decontextualized footage to portray Jonathan as a morally depraved, brutal, and abusive spouse. And I never saw that, so I don't know what they're talking about, but that the network edited out material that would have made Jonathan appear more humanizing, and that the town said that the thrust of their legal filing was not a dispute over legitimate editorial judgment or discretion, but or that the thrust of that. So they're representing themselves, etc. And the portrayal. That is true. I've seen that with these shows where they make somebody look like they've done that with some of the guests on Below Deck, where they make them look, completely inappropriate, complete jerk. I guess one of them, when the girls were cleaning the room, there was like poop in the shower, and so they were making a real big deal about that. They spent like 10 minutes on that. Now, there's a place to do that, but they kept showing the camera on the person they think they could do that. I wonder if that guy's going to sue. One of the deckhands on season 3 of Below Deck, Emil Coetzee, a South African deckhand, filed a lawsuit against Bravo. They said he was sexually harassed and put in dangerous situations after being tricked into doing the show. TMZ is reporting this lawsuit. He joined the series at age 23. It was in the summer of 2015. He was told the reality show following super yacht crew members who work abroad was like a documentary-style series, and it would benefit his career. Instead, he said the show subjected him to a hostile work environment, for ratings, defamed him by deceptively editing footage. He's suing for $850 million, including $123 million, and lost future earnings as a yacht captain because that's what he wanted to do. Said the producers put him into a showmance with crew member Rocky Dakota, allegedly pushed him to drink a lot of alcohol, told him to say a cheesy line to her, and made her look lust-driven or whatever. And so this frankenbiting, or taking clips of things out of context and stitching them together, this is something that, this is why I don't do a lot of TV. Pawn Stars was really, really good with me. And they didn't do any of that. And it was pretty much what you saw is what you got. Yes, they told me when to walk in. They told me when to. I did my own hair and makeup. They didn't do my hair and makeup. I did my own. They mic'd me up. They might have had me reword something, but it was overall very much what you saw. And I like that, but I'm watching these other things, and this is why Trump had to do True Social. People would edit what he said. Look at how him suing BBC because of the January 6th speech he gave. You're really going to edit, and you're going to play around with that? You can't do that. But this deceptive editing is something that is so bad. I get frustrated as a doctor because patients will, in their mind, edit out what I said. Now, one of the reasons why I stopped taking phone calls in my office is one of my patients, who was a buddy of mine, calls me on my cell and says, yeah, I think I'm having an issue, with my Lipitor or whatever. And I said, come in, let's take a look at you. Come in. Well, I'm driving now. And he was having really bad service, and he was near Zizix Road, which is, at the time, cell phones would have really, really bad service if you were going over certain mountains, on your way from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. And so I said, come on in. I want to assess if this really is a reaction to whatever, the Lipitor or not, and I want to manage your, cholesterol, whatever. So come in. You never did until months later. And then months later, I do his blood work, and his cholesterol's through the roof. And I say, what? Why is your cholesterol so high? Your Lipitor should be controlling you better. He's like, you told me to stop it. I go, say what? He said, you told me to stop the Lipitor. I go, I've never done that. He said, yeah, remember I called you when I was driving to L.A.? And I'm like, I didn't tell you to stop it. And so this sort of thing, we got him back on control, whatever. But I'm like, nobody call me. Don't be calling me and then misinterpreting what I'm saying. Remember I told you I had that woman that kept calling the answering service, so kept waking me up at night and the babies, saying she has chest pain. I said, go to the ER. She's like, let me take my nitro. I'm good. Kept calling every 15 minutes. I still have chest pain. I'm like, go to the ER. Husband calls me the next morning saying, why didn't you have my wife go to the ER? I said, I did. I told her to go to the ER. He said, no, you said she could take her nitro. I'm like, okay, no. We're recording everything from here on out. No way. I mean, or I just stopped taking call. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.